Please welcome to the stage Sam Stevens of AB InBev Foundation and our esteemed panel.
All right, good afternoon. Great to see you all. Pretty good turnout for the last day of the session here. So thank you all for sticking with it and hanging in there. We've got a great panel today talking about a very exciting initiative that we're all very passionate about, and we're excited to share with you guys as well. It's a great example of what we've talked a lot about this week: public-private partnerships, multi-sector partnerships to address social issues and ultimately make the world a better place. We've got a great set of panelists up here, dear friends, experts, and leaders in their fields. To my right, I'm proud to introduce Dr. Tom Ociocki, the Senior Vice President of Strategy and Innovation for AB InBev Foundation. We've got Kata Garcia, the Global Director of Corporate Affairs for AB InBev Corporate. And last but not least, LaDawn Manteghi, who is an adjunct professor as well as a senior advisor to Business for Good at Georgetown University. And of course, I'm Sam Stevens, President and CEO of the AB InBev Foundation, and thrilled to be with you all today. Now, to set the stage, I'll share just a little bit about what smart drinking is, because smart drinking is the name of the initiative that we're here to talk about today, the great public-private partnership, the great multi-sector partnership that is really making the world a better place. In 2015, 10 years ago, AB InBev set out on an ambitious agenda to ultimately reduce the harmful use of alcohol around the world. But they set out to do it in a very intentional, specific, impactful way. And that was by leveraging the strengths of different sectors, different players in the space, to harness the unique advantages, the unique strengths that different sectors, different organizations can bring to the table. And so you see, we've got representatives from a variety of different sectors with us today: private sector, philanthropy, academia, critical, pivotal organizations that helped make the smart drinking goals a success. So today we're going to talk about what are the smart drinking goals, what have we achieved in the first decade, and where are we going from here. So to start, Kata, I'm going to hand it over to you. Would be great, now that we've heard about what smart drinking is, to learn a little bit more about what is the purpose of the smart drinking goals in depth, and how did this work come about?
Thank you, Sam. I am delighted to be here today. Thank you to my co-panelists and this amazing audience here today at Concordia. So let me start with a story. 9 years ago, I joined AB InBev's global office here in New York City. And it was for a mission that sounded simple, but it was incredible and ambitious. It was leading the execution of the 10-year commitment of the global smart drinking goals. So I remember asking myself, how do we use the scale of AB InBev, the world's leading beer company, with 6 million customers around the world, 160,000 employees, more than 500 brands. And I told myself, okay, I'll take the challenge. I will enjoy the journey, and I will bring people together, connect internal and external stakeholders, bring expertise to ensure we could implement the smart drinking goals to reduce harmful drinking and promote moderation. So I was expecting that after 10 years, others will speak about. But I'm here today to tell you this story with these amazing partners. So for over 100 years, AB InBev has been promoting moderation. In 2015, we launched the Smart Drinking Goals to promote moderation and responsible drinking. And it was all about rooted in who we are, in using the reach of our brands to connect with consumers, to also create new ways of working. We created communities of practice to learn and share with external partners from different organizations, the academia, foundations, other companies as well. We created the foundation that helped us measure the impact, learn from the expertise of many colleagues. And we implemented the goals. In these 10 years, we implemented over 30 programs in several countries. We learned those evidence-based best practices that work and started scaling up. Also, we sparked the trend of no alcohol beer, as well as we led the largest voluntary guidance label initiative, placing this actionable advice and icons in our primary packaging to inform consumers about moderation. So it was a long journey with lots of learnings. We partnered with many, we measured, we adjusted what we learned, and we grew. So at the end, what we found is that when the company uses its brands that consumers love, that uses the reach and the scale and the voice and the humility and courage with transparency, a lot can be achieved. So that is business growth and also positive social impact that go hand in hand. So in short words, that's creating shared value. Shared value that is just a starting point for an evolution of many things you can do based on learnings across this journey.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kat. It's great to understand how this came about and some of the evolutions that we've undergone as we've worked to improve and ultimately make the smart drinking goals successful and effective, not only for today, but for the future as well. LaDawn, I'd like to turn to you. LaDawn's been instrumental in helping us at Georgetown University conduct an in-depth study on the first 10 years of the Global Smart Drinking Goals, helping us understand what has worked, what hasn't worked, how we can improve, and ultimately be even more successful long-term. LaDawn, from your perspective, would love to hear, as you've been conducting this study, what have you seen as some of the greatest successes of the first iteration of the Smart Drinking Goals, and what do you think are some of the key achievements?
Sure, thank you, Sam. And I want to commend Sam and Tom and Kata for the work that they have done on this endeavor. It was definitely a very bold and ambitious agenda, and they took it on in a way and at a time when the World Health Organization set out to achieve, a 10% reduction in harmful drinking around the world by this year. And AB InBev said, we're going to step up and help because the WHO also recognized that they cannot do this alone. No single government can do it alone. The collectives of governments cannot do it alone. And so it needed the private sector and others, nonprofits and others, to also play a part of, be a part of that solution. And AB InBev did that. And they set out this 10-year strategy and $1 billion to back it up. I think one of the most important successes is that they stuck with it. I don't know how many of you know companies that stay with any kind of a strategy, be it a business strategy or a social impact strategy, for 10 years. And to do it in headwinds that included an economic downturn, a pandemic, and several other elements too, including wars that have broken out. So I think that was one of the, perhaps one of the biggest successes, and it was a landmark. That's important. Secondly, I think as Kata indicated, it was important to bring in partners to do this as well. And so one of the things that I think stood out as we spoke to those who were involved in the process over the past 10 years was that there were definitely critics who said, we're a little skeptical of being involved with a beer company. And AB InBev did not shy away from that. AB InBev brought in the critics and had them serve as advisors to develop a strategy and then also to help implement. And so the critics also played a role, and that was important too. So you have to embrace them. Next I'll say is that, as Kata mentioned, I think the shared value component is really important. And so there were 2 test labs, essentially. And one was an internal test lab that was really important. The other was an external test lab. The internal test lab was AB InBev's Innovation Center. And so from inside the business, products were being developed. Elements that go into the products were being innovated on. And so it led to the creation and the expansion of lower alcohol beers and no alcohol beers. And I'll tell you, as one who tried some of those no alcohol beers years ago and said, I have them stocked in my own fridge now, as a result of testing for this study. So the low and no alcohol beers were tested out, and the no alcohol beers actually emerged as one of the most surprising transformative elements. And then from the external side, there were pilot programs out of the foundation that were conducted in 6 cities around the world with evidence-based solutions that the advisors, the critics, some of them not, who made recommendations of these are ways that you can take approaches. And so in those cities, those examples were piloted, and so lessons came out of those, and there were 3 solutions that came out really across the cities that were scaled. So that internal and external commitment to test and try and learn and innovate was really important as well. And the last thing I'll say is this: they leveraged every capability from inside the business. If you're really going to make transformation, if you're going to do this over 10 years, if you're going to commit $1 billion, that's important. You got to use the whole business. So this wasn't necessarily trying to make change around the edges. It was integration from inside the business and leverage from inside the business. Using marketing to do social norms marketing, doing the innovation elements, utilizing the brands for products, for labeling, and delivering messages and otherwise. So these were really some of the key things. And there were bumps along the way for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, LaDawn. Great to hear that summary of the progress that we've made. Tom, I'll turn to you now. As Kata alluded to, as LaDawn alluded to, the foundation was launched in 2017 to be an integral part of the global smart drinking agenda. Would love to hear from your perspective, what has the role of the foundation been as we've rolled this out, and what are some of the key accomplishments and contributions that the foundation has made?
Great, thanks, Sam. Certainly, I think the main reason why we have the foundation created was really to bring scientific rigor to the smart drinking agenda. As LaDawn and Kata have alluded to, this was a test case of trying to see what really works and what doesn't work. So we're working with different partners across different parts of the world. LaDawn talked about the city pilots that were done in the 6 countries where we're really testing and trying to learn what works and what doesn't work. And here you need to really bring in the scientific rigor of collecting data in an independent and objective way, making sure that you're transparent. One of the things that the foundation really adheres to, there was a policy that was developed right at the outset, making sure that there's transparency in data collection, there is access to that data so that other third parties can look at this data so that we can actually bring that objectivity so that we can inform the broader public health community in terms of what has worked and what has not worked. We were very critical in developing the partnerships. Sam mentioned about the partnerships with academia, research community, public health community. It's very important that the foundation as a neutral party comes in and supports that coalition development and moving this agenda forward, creating the evidence of informing the broader community. The other thing that the foundation really does is more like right after COVID was this aspect of really focusing on the catalytic role of the foundation. There are new novel solutions that we wanted to test. The risk of testing those solutions, we are not shy to try and test new solutions, digital solutions which are coming up and trying to say, well, can this work in this particular geography? I remember in Brazil, for instance, we really tested some of the solutions and they've given us a lot of promise and in how we are scaling up the agenda of smart drinking. So I think I'll leave it there as we go to the next conversation.
Fantastic. Great to hear that insight. I wish we had more time. We've got time for one more question each, maybe 1 minute responses. LaDawn, we'll start with you. As we think about this type of programming, what have you seen that is relevant to people outside the alcohol industry? How can they learn from this and implement it into their own sectors and businesses and industries?
Sure. I'll say this, the lessons that came out of this were really for more than just industry. And the most important lesson, I think, was about leadership and partnership. So leadership came from the C-suite, from the CEO, and that was vital. It set the tone. Leadership came from the markets because they were on the ground, they had to implement, and they had to do nuance that was really localized. And then the third part, I'm going to quote somebody from South Africa who was a local official who said, you can't be player and referee to AB InBev. So the leadership step that AB InBev took was to actually step back and give leadership to the locals, to lead a coalition in the pilots. And so that too was demonstration. And I think leadership at all those levels and leadership at the local level through partnership in particular was really, really critical. And that doesn't matter in terms, it's industry agnostic in terms of success.
Fantastic. Wise words indeed. Now let's pivot and take a look to the future. In the last couple of minutes here, Kata, tell us what's next for Smart Drinking.
Thank you, Sam. So it's an evolution. We learn a lot from our partners and the experts. And we see Smart Drinking and Moderation program who we are. It's part of our DNA. And there are 3 focus areas that we're going to continue working on and expanding and scaling. First of all is offering consumer choices. No alcohol beer and beer portfolio. We want consumers, when they see a Budweiser, a Michelob Ultra Zero, a Stella Artois, they don't only see a product. They feel a message of balance, moderation, and responsibility. So the second thing is that we are going to embed moderation in the brands using social norms marketing. Continue doing not just awareness campaigns and programs, but behavior change. And then, of course, scaling up those best practices with partners and ensuring that every cheers is one that we will be proud of.
I love that. Fantastic. An exciting agenda indeed, building on the success of the first decade. Can't wait to keep everybody posted on where we're going. And Tom, last word to you, my friend. What's next for the foundation? How do we contribute to this agenda?
Certainly. The role of technology is going to be very critical. We want to scale up the evidence-based interventions that we have learned from the pilots that we have done, the lessons that we've learned, and the partnership to roll out those technologies so that we can make sure that this really is transformational in terms of public health. We are focused on areas which include things like screening and brief intervention, working with healthcare systems, working closely on road safety, and using data, making sure that data use is critical in transforming the road safety agenda and other aspects of that, the smart drinking agenda. So that's all.
Fantastic. It's exciting. I think we've all heard a lot about the role of technology and AI. We're certainly going to be implementing that, incorporating that into the next chapter of smart drinking. I think it's been a great first decade, and can't wait to share the results of the next decade as we move forward. We'll be publishing a study with Georgetown that will really go in depth to the first decade of smart drinking. You all will have access to that as we come in the next couple of months. In the meantime, stay tuned for more exciting things to come. So thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you to the amazing panelists, and cheers to smart drinking. Thank you.